Hello everyone, welcome to the Dill Pickle Movie Network. I am Dylan Randazzo and welcome back to another week 8 I believe, of Big Brother videos on the channel. This is going to be another quicker recap just because everything seems very clear cut. There are of course so many twists being thrown at these house guests, but with this really core cookout alliance, it doesn't really seem like these twists are having that much of an effect on the game. If anything, these twists are turning out to be more of a disadvantage, and we'll get to that in a sec. But starting off the week, we saw Sarah Beth win this HOH, and she was probably the house target. Except for Kyland and maybe Xavier, I think Sarah Beth was pretty much who everyone wanted to see up on the block. She ends up winning HOH, which is great for her, great for Kyland. I think Kyland had such a disastrous week the week before, severing some ties with some of his allies, that I think this week was a really nice opportunity for him to bounce back. This week actually helps Kyland more so than Sarah Beth, because Sarah Beth now gets all this blood on her hands as we see the end of the week plays out, and Sarah Beth has a lot of enemies, and I think Kyland has less enemies, even though he was the one kind of running the show this week. And I think we'll talk in a little bit about who really is running this cookout, because it becomes very clear later on in the week what the power dynamics are in that alliance itself. But starting off the week, she puts up Claire and Derek F, put them up as pawns so she can hopefully backdoor Derek X, because she knows if Derek X plays in the veto, there's a good chance he'll win. She's basically doing exactly what Derek X did with Christian, making sure he does not have the chance to play to hopefully backdoor him. And this is where the high rollers room comes into play, because this could have been the chance for Derek X to save his own ass here on the block, but instead, because he's so tempted by the money, because America kept throwing money at him, myself included, because I kept voting for Derek X, he's getting so power hungry with all this money, and he feels secure because he's not on the block, that he was saying, you know what, I'll save my money and I'll play next week for that coin of destiny. The problem is, this was basically a free pass to earn safety this week. Alyssa's the only person who plays, and the only reason she wins is because there's no one else to compete with her, because her ball goes flying off the thing after I think 19 rotations, so there's a very good chance Derek X would have won that, and he would have been able to save Claire in addition to that. I think this was a blunder on Derek X's game, but I have to applaud him for at least taking the risk, knowing what was to come later. I mean, the whole theme of the season from the beginning, Julie has been trying to make this a theme of high risk, high reward, and we haven't really seen a lot of risk in this game. A lot of these wildcard comps early on, Sarah Beth decided not to take the safety because she didn't want to risk people switching teams. Tiffany didn't take the safety the next week. You know, Frenchie had the opportunity to throw the dice and see if it landed, and he didn't either. A lot of these players were given so many opportunities to take a risk, and they didn't take it. Here, Derek X could have secured himself safety, but he wanted to take the risk for the next week, and I do applaud him for doing that. But in retrospect, it was probably a bad move for his game, because if you're going to take safety, you might as well take safety when you can get it in the moment, than holding out for next week when you know your safety's not guaranteed. As I said, Alyssa ends up winning this as being the only one to compete, but hey, she at least got 19 rotations. It's not like she got up there and completely flubbed the challenge. I mean, she was able to complete a good portion of the challenge. She wasn't able to get the full 2 minutes, but she ends up winning. She takes Derek F off, which in her mind is very smart, because anyone sitting next to Derek F, they're going to go home because no one's going to vote off Derek F. So if for some reason she had saved Claire and Xavier went up in Claire's spot, everyone's going to vote off Xavier before they vote off Derek F. So I think this was a smart move on her part if she wanted to save herself and Xavier, because those are the two people she's looking out for. Of course, Xavier ends up being the one who gets the random replacement from the roulette wheel, but as we know, it doesn't really matter with the cookout in this house. As long as Xavier is sitting next to someone who's not in the cookout, Xavier's safe. So Alyssa doesn't know that, so Alyssa's obviously in tears, and I felt bad for her, but she didn't have to worry because Xavier was mighty fine. And this part hurts my heart, because Derek X, because he was waiting for the next week to really use his BB bucks, he decided not to play that game, so he didn't have safety, so he was really banking on the veto to make sure he was completely safe for the week, and of course, he does not get picked to even play in the veto. So this is exactly what happened to Christian. Some might say it's karma for what Derek X did for Christian, because Derek X doesn't have the opportunity to play. So as long as anyone wins the veto, someone's coming off the block and Derek X is going up. Even if Claire wins, she's going to take herself off. So I really think this was a lose-lose for Derek X, no matter what way you look at it. The second he didn't get picked to play the veto, he was done this week, and Sarah Beth knew it too. She looked at the camera, said, I'm sending your boy home. They didn't even need to play a veto. And this is where I'm a little confused, because Xavier really gunned hard for that veto, and he should have known that Alyssa would have used the veto on Xavier, that Derek F wasn't going to use the veto, he was going for the temptation, and then the other people, Azza, Claire, Sarah Beth, they would have all use the veto too. So I don't know why Xavier was so gung-ho on winning this veto, because now Xavier is showing his cards a little bit. He's been trying to keep his threat level down. He's been throwing so many competitions. Why did he feel the need to make himself a bigger threat and win this competition and put himself on the block the next week when the numbers are dwindling down? I just think this was a weird game move from Xavier, because he really didn't need to win it. Either way, no matter who won, Derek X was going to go up as a replacement nominee unless some crazy catastrophe happened. But I really don't think Xavier needed this veto, and he crushes the veto. Everyone is shocked. I think this is really bad for Xavier's game for showing his threat level, because if he doesn't win that HOH at Final 6 and someone like Tiffany or Hannah does, they're going to take that swing at Xavier. They're not going to go after Ozza or Derek F. They might go after Kylan, but even then I think they'd put him up against Xavier. So I really don't know what Xavier was thinking when he was trying to go so hard for this veto. Again, it puts him on the block again next week, so he's definitely going to be a nominee again. It just didn't make sense to me. Why not just stay up there, be the nominee? It was a weird game move for Xavier, but anyway, he wins. He does take himself off, and Claire is sitting up there with Derek X, who ends up going up as the replacement. This is where things get really interesting, because we did see half of the cookout trying to flip the vote. Hannah and Tiffany definitely wanted Derek X to stick around. They were so close to getting Ozza on board, and the crazy thing is that Kylan is the one who votes to keep Derek X after all is said and done, just as a sympathy vote. If Ozza and Tiffany knew that Kylan was voting to keep Derek X, I don't know why they wouldn't just jump ship and join Kylan, because either way, you're not losing a cookout member. Claire or Derek X, neither are in the cookout. I think for their game, they said Derek X is a better person to keep in there to fight against the bigger threats and to keep them shielded. I think this is really where we see who's running the show, because Tiffany is the one we're seeing a lot of the strategy from, and I think she does have the best mind in the cookout. She really is the best strategist, but it seems like Xavier's getting his way a lot more than Tiffany is, and it seems like Tiffany's saying, you know what, fine, take it. You know what, we'll vote him out if that's what the cookout wants. And I think it's a little too passive. I'm hoping maybe when they do get down to that 6, we'll see some more of that cutthroat gameplay that we've been waiting to see from Tiffany, from Hannah. You know, it was kind of sad to not see the vote flip, because A, I love Derek X so much. I love Claire, but I really love Derek X so much in this game. And 2, I think Xavier is already such a big threat, and he just won that veto that, you know, if you flip the vote, that almost isolates Xavier even more. Then you can take out Alyssa, his right-hand woman, and then it's just Xavier on an island. Then when it gets down to 6, you can just take out the biggest threat in Xavier. Now I think it's going to be a lot harder, because there are going to be less and less people who are challenge beasts who can go up against Xavier when it gets to 6. Either way, Derek X goes out in a vote of 5-2. A little bit of word on Derek X's game. I really like Derek X's game. I think he really hustled when he needed to. In that first week, he was going home if he didn't win that veto, and he won that veto. He secured his safety. He took Kylan off the block, which really solidified that bond with the queens and the kings, which eventually formed the royal flush. I think Derek X's big blunder probably came when he got rid of Christian, but at the time, that seemed like a good move, because Christian was winning almost every comp. He was winning half of the competitions in the house. I get how maybe some people are saying he took the move too early. Maybe he did, but putting Christian and Alyssa together in the jury phase of the game might have been detrimental, so I don't blame him for taking the risk, taking the big shot when he had the shot at Christian. I think Sarah Beth did the same thing to Derek X that Derek X did to Christian. It was that Derek X didn't win the veto and he was vulnerable. You have to take the shot at him because he could win every single competition, but I do think Derek X was not just a comp beast, but had a really good social game. He clearly had people struggling to vote him out because he had formed such great bonds with them, and I think that really is a testament to how good of a social player he is. Coming into the season, I thought he'd be just like this game bot strategist who didn't show a lot of personality, but I was so proven wrong, and I think America was won over by him. If only he had done that gamble and spun that roulette wheel and hopefully secured his safety and Claire's, it would have been a really interesting week, and we probably would have seen maybe Alyssa go home. Even then, I don't know, because Sarah Beth and Alyssa were on the Kings together. Maybe Sarah Beth would take a shot at like Derek F or Ozza. I don't know, but it's a bunch of what ifs, and I think Derek X really just had the mentality of go big or go home, and he did go home because he went big. He was hoping for that coin of destiny. That was his go big moment. He just didn't get there. So I'd love to see him come back in a future season, because I think he is a very savvy game player, and in a house where he is in that majority alliance and he is kind of running the thing, I think he's unstoppable. At the end of the episode, we finally see Tiffany win her first HOH, which is so exciting. A, because I love Tiffany and I'm happy she's going to get to see her family. And B, because this pretty much solidifies that Sarah Beth, unless she wins a Coin of Destiny, which, let's be honest, America isn't giving her that money, and she's been very vocal about it on the feeds, that she's obviously not doing enough for America to get the money. I think Sarah Beth is pretty set in stone to go, and I just love seeing when someone has the power and is very confident and then their whole game kind of crumbles, and nothing against Sarah Beth, but she was riding high this week. I got out Derek X, and now this is gonna be maybe a blindside next week if Tiffany can get it done. Even if someone else ends up dethroning Tiffany with that Coin of Destiny, it looks like Hannah, Claire, and Derek F are the ones who are getting the most amount of money from America. If one of them wins, I still think Sarah Beth ends up the target. The only way Sarah Beth gets off that block that week is if she wins veto, which could happen, or if Kyland or Sarah Beth win the Coin of Destiny, and I just don't think they're getting the money from America. So I'm very excited to see what happens this week. I hope Tiffany still has a little bit of power, even if her HOH reign is supposedly going to be cut short because of the Coin of Destiny, but I'm excited to see if this Coin of Destiny does shake anything up, because I think these powers have been a little bit of a dud. These have been more disadvantages than advantages. This was definitely a disadvantage for Derek X because he didn't gamble, because he knew there was another power down the line. It'll be really interesting to see once it gets to 6 who really ends up taking the reins of the cookout. It seems like it's going to come down to Tiffany versus Xavier. Whoever can really get the tide to shift in their direction is really going to be the front runner, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. If you want to watch more Big Brother videos, all the Big Brother videos are linked in a playlist in the top right corner. You can go check them out from the past weeks, and I will be bringing you Big Brother videos until the end of the season on this channel, so stay tuned, like and subscribe if you want to see more. Comment, who is your favorite? Who do you want to win, and who do you think Tiffany is going to target now? I know it's pretty obvious who she's going to target, but who do you think is actually going to go home? Because there's still a veto to be played and a coin to destine the destiny. Is that? Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.